It's time for Recipe of the Day. It probably seems that cooking chicken drumsticks in the Instant Pot should be very straightforward. Just look up how long they need to cook for, pile them in there, and turn it on for that amount of time, right? It turns out it's actually a little bit trickier. So over the years, I've been cooking chicken drumsticks in the Instant Pot many, many times, and I've had little problems that I've run into, and I've started doing it a little bit differently to adjust for that all the time, and now I have the perfect method. So I was running into two main issues when cooking chicken drumsticks and other kinds of especially bone-in chicken in the Instant Pot. And that is if the chicken pieces are overlapping a lot, like piled on top of each other, so they're pushing down on each other, or even touching side by side, but kind of like compressed, like they're being forced together by other chicken drumsticks, they don't cook as well where they're touching or don't cook as quickly. And that means that they're done in other places before those touching places, right? So that was the first problem. The second problem is that if I take the skin off of the chicken drumsticks, or if I buy them with the skin off, the seasoning that I put on them tends to wash away and all end up in the liquid at the bottom and not on the chicken. And I was finding the chicken quite bland. So I have solutions to both of those problems in this recipe. And I can just tell you quickly what they are in case you want to know, and then I will dive into the actual recipe. To avoid having the chicken overlap and then cook unevenly, what I actually do is stand it up in the Instant Pot. You put your liquid in there like you normally do, and then a trivet or metal steamer basket, Instant Pot steamer basket goes in there. And then you're going to put the chicken drumsticks meteor side down, pointing down so that they are standing up with the bone end pointing up, and the bone end is going to lean on the sides of the Instant Pot all the way around. So all the meatier parts of the chicken are kind of more in the middle, and they're not touching each other, and they're all pointing out like little spikes going outwards, and then the little bone end is leaning against the side of the Instant Pot. Now, none of the chicken is touching each other, and they are all not overlapping, and they will cook more evenly, and that is the solution there. Now, for the seasonings getting washed off, what I have found is whether you are going to eat the skin on the chicken drumstick or not, you want to leave it on, but you're going to pull it back first. So you pull it off the meatier part down to where the bone is, but don't pull it all the way off, just pull it back, and then add your seasonings to the chicken meat and then put the skin back in place. The skin is going to keep those seasonings touching the meat the whole time that it's cooking. And then afterwards, you can either take the skin off. It comes off very easily once the chicken is cooked, or you can broil it so that the skin gets nice and crispy. So that is up to you. Okay, so those are the solutions to the problems. Now I will tell you the recipe. So I like a lot of seasoning on these because even though we're doing this step with the skin going back over the meat, I do find that chicken cooked in the Instant Pot is just a little bit blander. So what you're going to do is get a large mixing bowl, and you're going to add 2.5 teaspoons of chili powder, 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, 2 teaspoons of onion powder, 1.5 teaspoons of ground cumin, 1.5 teaspoons of dried oregano, 1 teaspoon smoked paprika, 1/2 teaspoon of dried thyme, a teaspoon of salt, and 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. Stir that up. And then we're going in with 2 pounds of chicken drumsticks. That's about 8 of them. And like I said, you're pulling the skin back to expose the meat. And as you do that, pull the skin back and then add the drumstick to the bowl of seasonings. Once you get them all in there, toss them around to coat them. Now, if you don't have skin on your chicken drumsticks, either you pulled it off yourself or it came without the skin, I just recommend going in with a little bit extra seasoning here because it is going to wash away, or you can add some after it's cooked. You're just going to have slightly blander chicken. That's the problem, right? Okay, so now you've got all your chicken drumsticks in that seasoning. You've tossed them all around. Then you're going to add a cup of water or broth to the liner of your Instant Pot, and then you put a trivet or a metal steamer basket in there. I used to have a silicone steamer basket that I bought to use in the Instant Pot, and I find that things don't cook at the same amount of time when it's in there. They take longer, so I don't recommend that. I recommend the trivet that comes with the Instant Pot or a metal heat-safe steamer basket. Okay, so you have the water in the Instant Pot and the trivet, and then you take your drumsticks out of that bowl of seasoning, pull the skin back in place over the meat, and then arrange them like I said, meat side down, bones pointing out and up, and the bones are leaning on the side of the Instant Pot. Put the lid on, and you are pressure cooking on high for 10 minutes, and then after the 10 minutes is done, do nothing. It's going to natural release for 5 minutes, and then you're going to switch the valve over to the venting so that the steam can release more quickly. Once all the steam has released, you do want to check the temperature of the chicken. You know, every Instant Pot is different and how much your chicken weighed and just all sorts of different variables are there. You want to make sure the chicken is cooked through. Now, 165 degrees Fahrenheit is the minimum safe temperature for chicken. However, for dark meat, it's actually quite a bit better if you go a little bit higher with it. And that's just because there's like the fat and different things in there that break down and melt, and it makes juicier, more tender chicken. I recommend 175 degrees Fahrenheit even for the chicken drumsticks. So test, as long as they're at 165 minimum, you're fine. If you want to go a little bit higher, you can. The way you go higher, if they are not at 165 or are not at the temperature you want, put the lid back in place and then just set the Instant Pot to keep warm and leave it for 5 minutes. You can test again after the 5 minutes, and if necessary, do another 5 minutes. I have done this with like a pork roast where I just keep going for another 5 minutes. It keep warm for a long time and get it just to the temperature that I want. It's just better than like accidentally overcooking, and then you have like tough meat. We like slightly undercook here and then bring it up to the temperature that we want. Okay. So then once the chicken is at the temperature you want it to be, you have some options. If you want the skin off, you can pull the skin off, and it's very easy to do at this point once the chicken is cooked. And then you can use this meat to shred up. So you just use a fork to pull that off of there. That's one of the options. You can pull that chicken skin off and then coat them in some barbecue sauce and put them under the broiler maybe, or in the air fryer, or just with the barbecue sauce. They're going to be yummy. If you are putting them under the broiler, you want to lightly oil them first, and that'll help them brown nicely. Now the skin, if you're leaving it on, it's going to be a little bit rubbery. It just doesn't crisp up in the Instant Pot. So then you want to add a little bit of oil or some barbecue sauce and put that under the broiler or in the air fryer just to crisp up. You can also do this on the grill. Like you can heat your grill up and then put them on there with the barbecue sauce, and it'll just char a little bit. Really nice. The skin is not going to get crispy, but it is going to be a little bit better if you do that. But yeah, the general idea here is that we've left the skin on, and that means that it's going to be kind of rubbery in the end, and you want to do something about that, whether that is broiling it to crisp it up or air frying it or just taking it right off. But you're going to have juicy, delicious, well-flavored chicken underneath. It is going to be perfect. I will put the link to this recipe in the show notes for this podcast episode, or you can head to cookthestory.com/ROTD and get it there. Everything there is arranged by date, so it's helpful to know that today is December 9th of 2025. And if you make this recipe and love it, or if you make any of the recipes from my websites, please go and leave a 5-star rating and a comment. I want to hear what you think, and those ratings really help other people find the recipes and give them a try. So I really appreciate it if you can. If you love the recipe, go and give a rating and comment and let me know what you did, what you liked, all of that good stuff. I am Christine Pittman from cookthestory.com, thecookful.com, the all-new chicken cookbook, cookfor2.us, and this podcast, Recipe of the Day. I hope you have a great day. Let's get cooking.